Yes, good morning. You can see Dan Biggar alongside me. We've been hearing from Andy Farrell this afternoon, and as you just touched on there, the headline really is that Gary Ringrose was selected, has to withdraw. So Andy Farrell had wanted to go with that Irish combination of Bundee Aki, Gary Ringrose. Not been possible for him though, Dan.
Yeah, well, I think that's been the common theme throughout the tour, really, hasn't it? I think he's always wanted to keep Tuipulotu and Jones together and Aki and Ringrose together. And I'm a little bit I'm on the fence a little bit with this, because I think Tuipulotu and Jones did enough to keep their places on merit in the first test? Yes, I think they probably did. They were pretty dominant in that first 20-25 minutes. They linked up really nicely with Finn Russell, so that partnership has sort of been broken up a little bit. But when you play for the Lions and when you talk about the quality of players that we're talking about, it's not as if, they're bringing in park players. They're bringing in Bundee Aki and Gary Ringrose, which is what Andy would have liked to have done originally. So it's almost like you're just bringing good player in for good player, or great player in for great player. Yeah. So I think now that the team's named, yes, would I have stuck with the Scottish pairing? Probably. But I think now that the team's named, it's like, okay, you've brought a great player in for another great player. Let's get on with it. Let's get behind the team, and I'm sure they'll be as good as the two Scottish lads.
It's funny though, because our kind of ongoing conversation around going for an Irish pairing, a Scottish pairing, Andy Farrell has consistently dismissed that as a non-talking point. He's saying, particularly today, at this point in the tour, it is one big team, and he thinks that when asked, how would Hugh Jones go alongside Bundee, he said, well, they've had plenty of time together by now.
Yeah, well, they have had plenty of time together, but there's no doubt, everyone's got sort of eyes in their head, and they can see that generally the partnerships have worked a little bit better. Not saying that when they've played Sione with Gary Ringrose or vice versa that it hasn't worked, but partnerships in that position are really important. So yeah, look, I think it goes to show from the original selection that Andy wanted to make that that's his mindset. He wants to keep the Scottish guys together and then the Irish guys together. But look, they're two great sets of players, four great individuals, and that's probably an area of real strength, on top of probably having someone like Owen Farrell coming in on the bench to cover that 12 position and offer a slightly different alternative way of playing.
Yeah, the other kind of two changes to the starting 15. Ollie Chessum comes in for Joe McCarthy, and we did ask about Joe again today. It's not really clear when his foot's going to be better. There doesn't seem to be a clear timeline on that, but they're not sending him home, is what he said. And Andrew Porter is in for Ellis Genge. Again, just two fantastic options, but I think he likes Genge off the bench, doesn't he?
Yeah, again, I've got no real complaints about that, because I think even though I thought Ellis Genge was exceptional in that first test in particular, and again that first 20-25 minutes was where the Lions won the game and set their stall out, he was at the forefront of that. But you're bringing in, again, great player for great player in terms of Andrew Porter, physicality, dynamism, set piece, etc. And I think from that point of view, Ellis coming on in the last 20-25 minutes is a big addition to have. Chessum in for McCarthy, I think that was probably what everyone was expecting. He gives you the option of covering back row as well, and no complaints there. And again, it's a team stacked with international class experience, and I think it's a team good enough to get the job done Saturday.
Yeah, which is what they will be looking to do. We will just briefly touch on the Wallabies though. Again, 3 changes to the starting 15 there, and bringing in the 2 players, which people, to be honest, last weekend were baffled as to why they weren't involved. Joe Schmidt had said, maybe it was touch and go injury wise, but Will Skelton and Rob Valentini back in the starting 15, bringing some real power with them as well.
Yeah, I think it's Joe Schmidt is very much at a roll the dice time now. I felt like, could he, from a Wallabies point of view, did he need to roll the dice last week and give them the best possible chance in that opener in Brisbane? I suppose we'll never know the answer to that now, but I think this week it has to be Skelton coming in, Parecki coming in, Valentini coming in. I looked at the 2 teams. This is something I found really interesting. I looked at the 2 teams when they came out last weekend, on last Thursday. And I looked at the Wallabies team and I looked at the Lions team. I said, how does that Wallabies team beat the Lions team? And I couldn't find an answer. I look at this Wallabies team this week, and I don't know if it's good enough to beat the Lions on Saturday. But I look at this team and I think with Skelton, Valentini, Parecki in, there's a way in which they can win in terms of nullifying the Lions' power, bringing their own power, set piece, etc. Whereas I didn't feel that at all last week with the two teams lined up on paper, and let's hope it's a much closer contest as a game. Yes, the game was 8 points the difference in the end, but anybody who knows anything about rugby knows that wasn't an 8-point win. The Lions were dominant in that first 20-25 minutes. Yes, they took their foot off the gas, but they'll know that they'll have to keep the foot on the gas for a lot longer this week.
I mean, just hearing you there, it is so exciting. We are heading to the MCG. We'll be there tomorrow, looking ahead to the second test this Saturday. Hearing from Andy Farrell today saying, you know what, we were caught up in the occasion, fairly happy with our performance, but they're really clear that they need to kind of step things up this Saturday. Dan and I will be back with you as we continue our build up to the second test. It is the Lions taking on the Wallabies for the second time around, and it is live on Sky Sports.